Rumors are flying among the nobles that Prince Arel is even worse off than commoners when it comes to mana. People are saying he's failed at every kind of training, and he's so clumsy he could trip over nothing. While some find it hilarious, it's not doing Arel any favors. At the concubine's castle, Arel is chilling with cookies and orange juice. Kind of a surprising combo for medieval times, when he hears about a new private tutor coming to teach him. The gossip about him being useless has scared off most tutors, so Arel's curious about who's brave, or crazy, enough to take the job. He looks out the window just in time to see the tutor stepping out of a carriage. A few minutes later, he finds out the guy's name is Gamel Pernia. The vibe in the room immediately gets awkward. With Gamel stuck teaching someone everyone thinks is hopeless, and Arel already bored out of his mind. Arel sighs and figures they might as well start with literature, focusing on foreign and common languages. Gamel piles up books in front of him and says basic grammar should only take a day to learn. But since Arel's reputation is so bad, Gamel gives him a few days instead, acting like it's no big deal if he can't get it right. This annoys Arel, so he promises to give it his best shot. Gamel keeps talking, saying bad grades don't always mean someone isn't trying. Sometimes, it's just how the brain works. He basically says it's not Arel's fault, but the backhanded compliment feels worse than outright criticism. Arel starts feeling the weight of people looking down on him. Sure, he wanted everyone to stop expecting so much from him, but he hadn't expected their pity to sting so much. Late at night, Arel goes ninja baby mode and sneaks into the library, feeling himself about his top-tier language skills. Thanks to hundreds of past lives, he's been fluent in multiple languages since he was a toddler. As he walks through the library, he wonders if he should let everyone know just how much of a genius he really is. He focuses mana in his hands and starts searching for books on vocabulary and grammar, using magic to pull them off the shelves as he walks by because he's too midgety to reach. He doesn't stop there though. He grabs books in foreign languages too, trying to know even more than he already does. With everything neatly stacked on a table, he gets to work. Flipping open a book, Arel thinks about how all languages follow the same basic rules. He's lived 100 lives, and in every one of them he's been busy learning. That night, starts studying hard, very much determined to show off just how smart he is the next day. A few days later, Gamel pills up, saying his jokes have gone too far and asking if he really understands the common language. Arel sighs and says he's not lying, even trying to prove it by reading something. Gamel feels like he might have just memorized some passages, but Arel says to him that even memorizing a whole language would be impressive, considering how tricky the kingdom's official language is compared to others. Gamel challenges him to pick a random book and read it. He points out that even the smartest kids need to be at least 12 to handle basic reading, and Arel's only 5. Arel immediately grabs a book and reads it flawlessly, leaving Gamel in total shock. Gamel is quite overwhelmed and even starts tearing up, calling Arel's talent extraordinary. After all, when a student excels, it makes the teacher look good too, you know. Arel tells his teacher that he should feel lucky to have such a genius for a student. Fired up loads, Gamel jumps into the day's lesson, ready to teach his brilliant pupil. By the next night, the rumors about Arel take a wild turn. Where people used to mock him for being clumsy and useless with a sword, now they're all hyped about how he mastered the common language in just 2 days. Rumors start flying here and there about how Arel can solve math problems in his head like it's nothing. And just like that, the legend of a genius Arel is born. But where did these stories come from? Turns out, down at a local tavern, someone's been spilling the tea, or beer rather. Gamel, Arel's tutor, is sitting there, a little too tipsy, bragging to anyone who listened about how he always saw the prince's potential when everyone else didn't. He's going on and on about how hidden talents just need the right teacher, aka him, to shine. Before long, word about Arel's smarts makes its way to the king. The king is pretty amazed and talks with Lady Rafana about how their son might have struggled with all the sword and magic stuff because it just wasn't his thing. Lady Rafana apologizes for causing any worry, but thinks that, as his mom, she should have realized how special he was sooner. The king, seeing her concern, reassures her. They share one of those heartfelt and very cultured moments that would make the queen need eye bleach, and he tells her he's sure their son will grow up to do amazing things. Meanwhile, our boy is out here eavesdropping on the whole conversation, thinking to himself that, yeah, he'll do just enough to keep the king impressed, pick a good spot in life, and have some fun while he's at it. And so, Arel kicks off his 101st life, this time as a brainiac prince. A few days later, he notices more guards hanging around outside the concubine's castle. It doesn't take long for him to figure out that since he can't fight or use magic, the king probably sent them to keep him safe. Arel feels a little proud, guessing the king's in a pretty good mood. But then, some loud sound behind him grabs his attention. Jaina has dropped off a massive chest, and his mom explains it's a gift from the king. Arel immediately opens it and finds it stuffed with gold coins, shiny jewels, and all kinds of treasures. As he's digging through, something catches his eye, a unique-looking necklace. Chaina asks if it's the priciest thing in the chest, but Arel decides it's not about the cost. This necklace is the coolest thing in there by far. Arel puts on the necklace and says it gives you big brain time and also helps you think faster while keeping you from getting tired. Chaina is super impressed, thinking it's all because of how hard Arel's been studying ladle, but he just makes it look like it's no big deal. The truth is, while the necklace looks pretty basic to everyone else, Arel can see the mana-triggering gadget hidden inside the jewel. Not that he needs it, but his inner chi does way more. As he does stuff with the necklace, he starts thinking about Kania, who's been working out like crazy for her sword training and is now seriously ripped. He asks his mom if he can give the necklace to Kania, and she gently pats his head and says that since it's a gift from the king, giving it as a present would probably make the king happy too. She then asks what Arel likes about Kania. He says it's her strength, which makes all the maids burst into a mad laughter. That day, the whole concubine's castle is booming with joy, knowing that Arel is not only recognized but also favored by the king. The young knight even brags about it to his fellow guards, reminding them to take pride in being part of the concubine's castle. A few days later, Arel is sitting in the dining hall with Chaina. She tells him all the desserts he requested are ready, and asks what he thinks of them. Arel tries one after another but isn't happy with any of them. He's annoyed and keeps searching for something better. Chaina encourages him to slow down and enjoy the treats, asking if they taste good. Arel, frustrated, says none of them are sweet enough because they're all missing what he's looking for. Chaina, confused, says these desserts were made by the best chefs and offers to bring one over to fix the problem. That's when Arel has a light bulb moment. What he needs isn't a chef, he asks for an alchemist instead, which just surprises and confuses Chaina. Prince Arel starts spacing out, thinking about Coca-Cola and snacks from his old life. Practically drooling, just imagining the taste. He figures he'll need an alchemist to recreate cola, but that's easier said than done. Chaina, super confused about why he'd want an alchemist, asks him what's going on. Arel freezes, realizing she must have heard him daydreaming out loud. He thinks about explaining but quickly decides it'll sound way too weird, especially since he's only 5. Instead, he starts putting together the problem. The kingdom doesn't have the right seasonings or fancy techniques needed to make something like cola. The more he thinks about it, the more he realizes how tricky it'll be. Making cola isn't just mixing stuff together. It needs all these extra steps he can't even do yet. Feeling bummed, he starts fantasizing about the fizzy, sweet drink again, but then he snaps out of it and reminds himself that he's supposed to be a genius scholar. If anyone can figure it out, it's him. He suddenly jumps up and bolts out of the room. Chaina stares after him, completely lost, and asks where he's off to. He yells back that he's going to study, leaving her scratching her head, wondering if she even heard him right. Arel, meanwhile, is sprinting through the castle, laser-focused on one thing: chemistry. He knows cooking and chemistry go hand in hand, so he's convinced alchemy is the key to cracking the cola code, no matter how tough it'll be. Fast forward 3 years. Now 8 years old, Prince Arel is running a meeting, sitting at the head of a big table. They're talking about building new bridges in areas where merchants travel a lot. One of the supervisors asks what he thinks about the plans. Arel checks out the blueprints, compliments how impressive they look, and then casually asks who designed them. When a supervisor proudly claims credit, Arel's expression changes. He threatens to fire the guy if he ever shows up with another useless design. The room? Dead silent. Prince Arel points out a few problems in the bridge design, saying that while it might work for now, it'll be a disaster when snow piles up in the winter. The weight would crush the wooden parts underneath because the designers cared more about making it look fancy than keeping it safe. Our boy makes it clear that while the kingdom should look impressive, safety has to come first. He demands they redo the design and then moves on to the next blueprint. With his crazy amount of knowledge, Arel's workload is kinda shooting through the roof. The so-called experts in the room can't hold a candle to him. But they've decided to trust this 8-year-old genius anyway. Our boy feels a little bad for them, but he knows he's got no choice. He has to keep proving himself. After the meeting, as Arel heads out, a new maid spots him and calls him by his latest nickname, the Young Grey Sage. He's instantly horrified and thinks it's the cheesiest thing ever, realizing the maid must be new. He tells her not to use that nickname again because he can't stand it. She promises to remember, but as he walks off she almost messes up and says it again. Arel, now extra annoyed, silently swears that nickname is the lamest thing he's ever heard. As his carriage moves off, Lady Rifana looks out the window and asks Chaina if Arel is heading somewhere important. Chaina tells her that he's going to see the king, which makes her wonder what they'll talk about. Chaina hesitates, almost saying that Arel is interested in learning alchemy. Meanwhile, up in the carriage, our boy is busy imagining how the king might react when he drops his alchemy request out of nowhere. Even though his audience request was approved right away, Arel figures the king must trust him now, especially since he's been handling so many responsibilities like a pro. Prince Arel stares out the window, trying to shake off the nerves. Even after living through 100 lives, the king's aura still feels overwhelming. He keeps reminding himself to stay calm and not mess up when it's time to talk. When the king asks why he wants to learn alchemy, Arel explains it's because he wants to help the kingdom and the king more. Since he's no good with swords or magic, all he can do is gain knowledge and put it to use. The king listens carefully, impressed by how thoughtful Arel is, and agrees to his request. He promises to connect Arel with some reliable alchemists, and even asks if there's anything else he needs. Arel politely says he'll ask later if something comes up. As the king smiles warmly, Arel feels pretty chill, knowing his plan worked perfectly. Word spreads fast, and soon all the best alchemists in the kingdom show up, eager to prove themselves and maybe earn some recognition. It's no surprise when Demon Ranchette gets picked. He's known for creating these crazy reflective mirrors that bounce sunlight super far, which he installed on the western fortress to keep invaders away. A few days later, Arel meets Demon in the garden of the concubine's castle. Demon casually compliments the beauty of the garden, but Arel is more focused on him. Based on his legendary reputation, Arel expected some old, wise-looking alchemist, but Demon turns out to look surprisingly young. Noticing the confusion, Demon explains that his hair turned white years ago after a little accident with toxic fumes. Our boy realizes that Demon almost lost his life while learning. Demon, staying calm, warns Arel to be ready for the risks. If anything happens to the Our boy during experiments, Demon for sure knows he'll be held responsible, maybe even with his own life, or worse. Demon explains that alchemy is way harder and more dangerous than Arel probably thinks. He even points out how young Arel is, but before he can finish, Our boy cuts him off. He tells him that he knows what he's getting into. Alchemy isn't magic, it's science, and he's not chasing silly dreams like turning rocks into marshmallows, or going miracle mode by turning into wine. What he really wants is practical tech, methods to clean iron ores and create stronger metals for the kingdom. Demon is blown away by Arel's ambition and sharp thinking. He feels this kid is destined to lead the kingdom of Arnesia someday. After being inspired by Arel's speech, he kneels before Our boy, telling him that although his skills are lacking, he'll teach him everything that he knows. A few days pass since alchemy class kicks off, and Prince Arel is deep in his studies when Demon suddenly asks if he's done this alchemy stuff before. Arel gets caught off guard, thinking maybe he's been showing off too much. But he quickly changes the subject, saying he just read about it in a book. Demon seems cool with that and even says Arel matches the rumors he's heard. Arel feels relief because of his genius scholar act is working. The two of them end up grinding all day, every day, from sunrise to sunset. As they dig into their research, Arel figures out that you can harden iron by throwing in some eggshells or bone ash. He shares this discovery with Demon, and they keep making progress. Later on, Arel learns how to extract lead and other stuff. He also notices that, aside from some special metals and medicines in this world, everything else is pretty much the same as what he remembers from his past lives. He talks about how lucky it is that the rules haven't changed. Demon hears him and asks what he meant, but Arel tells him that he was just talking to himself. With everything going according to plan, Arel sends a letter to the king asking for more alchemists. The king doesn't waste time and agrees, telling his men to gather the best alchemists in the kingdom. But there's a teensy tiny problem. One of the king's advisors kinda hesitates, cause he's worrying about complaints over the budget, but the king shuts that off immediately. He trusts Arel's work will be worth it and good for the kingdom. Meanwhile, back in the kingdom, Arel says he's going to create a carbonated drink, a soda. The alchemists are surprised and ask if he's seriously planning to make food. Our boy happily says that's exactly what he's doing. He starts explaining some basics, but before he could get too far, the alchemists start feeling disappointed. They came here hoping to achieve big things and bring honor to their families, only to end up making snacks. One alchemist even complains about giving up his cushy, huge professor job at the Alchemy Academy just to get turned into chef's apprentice. To calm them down, our boy promises they'll be well paid no matter how things turn out. That does the trick, and the alchemists start tossing around ideas. First, they figure they need carbonated water, which naturally exists in some parts of the kingdom and can be brought in pretty fast. Our boy notices these guys aren't exactly driven by passion. They're just happy as long as they get paid or earn some fame. Still, he knows they'll be useful for speeding up his research. A few days later, wagons loaded with barrels of carbonated water roll in from all over. This makes our boy very happy, and Demon pops open one of the barrels, but the nasty smell makes him cringe as he asks if they're really supposed to drink this. Arel tells him they need to test if it's drinkable, but after checking the first barrel, he almost gags and decides it's a no-go. The water's an epic fail. He checks the other barrels and yep, they're all terrible. But our boy doesn't lose his cool. He tells everyone they'll have to make artificial carbonated water instead, causing a buzz among the alchemist homies. He hands out papers with some theories, saying that they could crack the problem if they dig into these clues. Seeing how serious this is, Arel reassures them, saying they're the best alchemists around and will figure it out in no time. When he turns to Demon for some backup, his response doesn't exactly scream enthusiasm. These alchemists really are the top-tier brains in Arnesia. Feeling good about things, Arel leaves the room, telling them that messing around with theories and testing stuff should be their happy place, so he won't hover around. Still, he wonders if they can pull this off in just a week, but figures the challenge will only make them work faster. A few days later, Arel is really excited as he tells the alchemists this carbonated water will bring energy to the kingdom, and also summon in piles of cash. The alchemists aren't so sure, secretly wondering if it's all dumb hype, but Arel's very surprised when he sees they've already managed to make artificial carbonated water. Our boy grabs a container and is ready to taste it himself. Demon and the others are curious if this stuff will really catch on. The water has a strong kick but no flavor, so they're skeptical. Arel quickly clears it up, explaining it's not meant to be drunk plain, they'll mix it with fruit juice or alcohol. His original dream was to recreate cola, but since he couldn't get the cola fruit, this fizzy alternative would have to do the job like a substitute teacher. To start, Arel squeezes up some lemon juice into the fizzy water and takes a little sip. The taste hits just right, like Goldilocks and the Bears kinda right, making it completely perfect with so much excitement. He passes it around, and as expected, the alchemists love it too. The sour lemon flavor mixed with the bubbly fizz is a total hit, leaving everyone wanting even more. And just like that, our boy's carbonated soda is born. Word of the drink spreads like wildfire, turning it into such a luxury that the people can't get enough of, even outside the borders of Arnesia. Lord Dement, the Earl of the Northern Territories, can't wrap his head around this soda thing Prince Arel has created. He has to double-check with his servant, who confirms it's all thanks to Arel's lead. The drink has turned into a super fancy luxury item and is making bank for the Arnesia kingdom. There are even wild rumors about carriages stuffed with gold showing up at the concubine's palace every single day. Kicking himself for brushing Arel off on his first birthday and thinking the prince is useless, Lord Dement is full of regret. If only he had backed Arel back then, he could have had a piece of the action. Swearing to never miss out again, he vows to keep a closer eye on things. Fast forward 2 years, and over at the concubine's castle, 16-year-old Princess Kania is showing off her sword moves. After finishing her routine, she nervously asks 10-year-old Prince Arel for his thoughts. Arel, pausing for a moment, tells her she looks super cool and impressive. Her escort pops up too, saying her swordsmanship is flawless. Arel agrees, thinking she's way more skilled than any boy his age. Kanya gets really happy, jumping around and thanking them for their kind words. Watching her bounce with excitement, her escort says they want to take a break, and Arel thinks she looks really cute while being so cheerful. After the training session, Kanya and Arel sit down in the garden for some tea. Kanya brings up all the news about Arel's soda success, saying it has not only helped the palace but also boosted the kingdom's economy. Arel, playing it cool, calls it his duty as a prince. Kanya then tells him of a rumor about him being the perfect son, which has apparently made a lot of people jealous of Lady Rifana. But there's more to this story than just Arel's soda fame. After learning his mom, Rifana, comes from a fallen noble family that used to run a small territory and has been living like regular dudes, Arel decides to hand over the soda distribution to her family. This turns out to be a genius move, as people aren't just buying a bottle or two. They are lining up to grab crates of soda. The demands are higher than the Grimace Shake. Some people are so desperate for the drink that they pay double or even triple the usual price just to get it. On top of soda, Arel also introduces yogurt and another drink to the market, and both become insanely popular. Thanks to all this, Lady Rifana's family goes from being regular nobles to being richer than any merchant in the kingdom. Their house is so packed with gold decorations, from the floors to the ceiling, that it kinda blinds anyone who tries to walk through it. Rumors are spreading like wildfire, and soon people start comparing Prince Arel's successes to Princess Kania's efforts. This leaves Kania super frustrated and upset. She is so annoyed she ends up in tears, begging Arel to tone things down. Arel just laughs at it like it's not a big deal. Trying to change the topic, he offers her some soda and waffles covered in his syrup, assuring her that he can spoil her with the treat. But Kania isn't interested in snacks. Instead, she whips out her sword and tells him exactly what she thinks his problem is. What good is all that money, if he doesn't even know how to fight? As she points her sword right at him, she says that she is going to teach him how to handle a blade. Arel, clearly unimpressed, thanks her but says no, explaining he has no interest in being a swordsman in this life. He remembers his past, where he had lived the life of a warrior before, but Kania isn't about to let him off easy. She immediately launches a surprise attack, showing him some sword techniques while pushing him to fight back. Arel sighs, realizing it will be faster to just go along with her. He figures if he plays along, it might help her achieve her dream of raising a family full of swordmasters. Despite looking really delicate, Kania has a ton of energy and passion, and our boy decides to use his chi bit by bit. brick by brick, deciding to help her reach her goal. A few days later, Arel finds himself riding in a massive carriage on the way to see the king. He admires how huge it is, joking in his mind that it's like riding in a Lamborghini. The attention it gets from people makes him feel like some kind of celebrity. Leaning back and relaxing, Arel wonders what the king wants to talk about this time. He suspects it might involve a bonus or some extra allowance as a reward for his achievements. When he arrives, Arel joins the king for lunch, curious about what's next. He remembers how the quiet used to make him uneasy, but now he is used to it. Sitting alone, he calmly eats his meal, waiting for the king to speak. Lately, he has been visiting the king more often. Just as Arel is about to bite into a cookie, he nearly chokes when the king asks if he has thought about taking on a real government job. After clearing his throat, our boy realizes the moment he has been avoiding has pilled up. The king says it might feel a little early, but no one would oppose if Arel starts working in the government. He then asks what he thinks and if there is any specific job that he might want. Trying to stay composed, Arel tells him that he doesn't have any preferences, though deep down, all he really wants is to relax, eat, and enjoy life. He sips his tea, hoping to not blow it all completely, and tells the king he doesn't see why he should think about work now, especially since he is still busy with science and alchemy. Keeping his poker face, Arel waits as the king sits silently. In his mind, our boy wonders why the king wants him to take on a role when the first prince isn't even involved in government yet. He thinks about the queen, and the first prince staying quiet, and how he has always been careful not to cross any lines with them. He also feels lucky that the last big ball has been cancelled thanks to the chaos caused by the freak prince. Ain't no ball like a prince ball. Arel knows being liked by the king is one thing, but being trusted with a big government role is something else entirely. He dislikes gossip and doesn't want to get caught up in any drama with his brothers. Was the king trying to stir up trouble between them on purpose? Arel feels that this might be the case. He thinks about how survival isn't just about being clever or strong in the wild. It applies to royal life too. To sit on the throne, you need the strength and sharp instincts of an eagle. Without that, even all the knowledge from his past lives wouldn't be enough to stay safe. Maybe the king wants a world where only the strongest survive. Either way, Arel isn't about to fall into the trap this time. A few days pass since Prince Arel talks with the king. Now, he is riding a horse, looking excited as he thinks about how this is his first time going so far from the concubine's palace. And it's not on a toy horse this time, it's the real thing. The wind hits his face, and he feels free like never before. He thinks he deserves this breath of fresh air after all the time he spent working hard and staying indoors. He remembers the times he used to explore everywhere, even across worlds, just to find strong people to challenge. But today, he's happy just enjoying this horse ride. Then Kania calls out, telling him to slow down, kinda impressed by how well he rides. In his head, he thanks her for taking him along, but out loud, he says it's all because the horse is smart, not him. He looks back, wondering why so many knights are escorting them for such a short trip. He notices some of them look pretty tough. Kania tells him that she didn't ask for this many guards, but before she finishes, Arel cuts in, reminding her she's a princess. Safety definitely has to come first, even if it means losing a bit of freedom. Suddenly our boy feels something strange coming from in front of them up ahead. It's like a weird heavy energy. He stops his horse and wonders if it's some kind of magic. His sister asks why he stopped, and he tells her they should turn back because he thinks there might be monsters in the forest. Kania looks confused and asks how he knows. And our boy makes up a stupid reason about having a strong sixth sense and says the feeling is bad, like a trap is waiting. Kania doesn't believe him, of course, and immediately charges toward the strange energy. Shocked, Arel yells for the knights to make sure she comes back safely. One of the knights awkwardly admits they are actually on the right path. Turns out just beyond the forest is the princess's training ground. Arel is confused and asks about this training ground, but in the end, he just follows his sister, who seems completely sure of where she's going. This whole thing started a few days ago. It all just kinda happened when Kania and Arel were out here eating together with no danger. Kania told him about trip soon and invited him to tag along. She totally understands how annoying it is to be stuck in the palace all the time and talks about how much she loves hunting and going on adventures. As they ride side by side, Kania tells him that traveling is practice, and practice is traveling. It's all just fun for her. Arel, though, feels like this is more of a punishment than anything else. Kania looks over at him and says she's pretty sure he would have come along even if it was just for practice, because he trusts her. And since she's his sister, she promises to protect him if they run into any monsters. Arel doesn't say much, he just smiles, thinking about how awesome she is. Soon they reach the training ground. Arel gets right into planning mode, laying out the strategy. Some troops will lead the monsters to one side, Kania will break through, and the rest of the team will handle the ones caught in the trap. The goal is to make the best use of their time and energy while letting Kania show off her skills. The plan kicks off, and the guards round up 20 orcs for Kania to fight. She grabs her sword, rushes at them, and takes down the first orc with a slash to its neck. She sends another flying with a quick slash. Arel watches, kind of doubting at first that she'd even take one down during her first try. But as he keeps watching, he has to admit she's got serious skills. He's a little jealous, of course, and rightly so, but mostly impressed by how strong and calm she looks while fighting. Kania doesn't stop, going from one orc to the next, increasing her kill count. Kania's skills leave everyone hyped, watching her pull off amazing moves for a 16-year-old. The training keeps going for a few days, and she just keeps showing off how talented she is. One night they're chilling by a fireplace. Arel asks if she's tired, but Kania says she's good and even wishes she could have fought more. Arel tells her not to push herself too hard, reminding her how people mess up when they let their guard down. He even brings up a mistake from his past life that cost him big. As they hang out, Kania is busy raving about how good the meat skewer tastes. Arel watches her and thinks how, at that moment, she just looks like any regular 16-year-old girl. But then, as the night goes on, he suddenly asks why she wants to be so strong. Kania is surprised but answers seriously. She says that no matter how skilled she gets, nobody will actually support her choices, because she's a princess. People think it's just a phase, and one day she'll quit all this sword stuff, settle down, and marry some random guy for politics. Arel gets it. In their world, it's totally normal for princesses to have arranged marriages for the sake of alliances. Kania is already at that age where people expect it, but before Arel can say anything, Kania interrupts his thoughts. She straight up says she hates that life. Arel is surprised, but she explains how much she admires him. He's out there doing what he's good at, earning respect, and making money while helping the kingdom. She wants the same thing. She wants people to see her for her skills, not just as someone who'll marry for politics. With a determined look, Kania says that she'll control her own life. Arel smiles, impressed, and confidently tells her she's definitely going to change her destiny. Kania smiles back, saying she wants to be like him. Then she remembers their journey ends tomorrow. Arel agrees. This trip has been amazing, and he's glad he came along. The next day, Kania is still out there taking down orcs like it's some kind of personal vendetta. When one orc charges at her, Kania wastes no time and slashes it clean across the torso, dropping it instantly. Everyone watching is amazed. She keeps hunting orcs, even on the way home, like she's on some kind of unstoppable rampage. The orcs that were trying to hide don't stand a chance and get caught easily. Arel eventually yells out to her, telling her it's time to stop. He points out that there's nothing left to fight and they really need to get back home. Kania looks around, sees she's surrounded by a pile of defeated orcs, and finally agrees to call it a day. But then she notices her horse looking rough, like really rough. It's worn out from all the action and looks like it needs a break ASAP. Arel says they should ride together on his horse while her tired one gets sent to the magicians for some magical stuff. Kania hops on and takes the reins, since, let's be real, she's the better rider anyway. And our boy's totally fine with that. They start heading home with the guards following close behind. Everything seems fine at first, but of course, that doesn't last. Arel feels something's off and looks up at the sky. Kania asks him what's wrong, but he can't explain it, just has a bad feeling. He focuses his chi to try and figure out what's up. Then he spots it, a wyvern. Arel freaks out and quickly grabs the horse, telling Kania to hang on tight. He's ready to make a run for it. Turning to the guards behind them, he shouts, warning them about the wyvern, and tells them to get into the woods for safety. The guards can't believe it and think it's nonsense. They picked this spot because the local lord, who loves hunting wyverns, swore there were none around. Then things go south fast. Someone raises the alarm, and just like that, a massive wyvern dives down, snatches a guard like a toy, and flies off with him. Everyone loses it. People are yelling and running everywhere, completely shocked to see the very monster they thought didn't exist here. Prince Arel keeps it together and takes charge, while Princess Kania looks back nervously to see what's going on. That's when it hits her. There isn't just one wyvern. There's a whole flock of them. Arel sees it too and is super confused. Wyverns usually prefer to be loners, but now they're acting like some organized death squad. These creatures aren't just hunting, they're wiping everyone out for the fun of it. What really throws him off is that they're using crazy magic like acid breath, making them even more dangerous. Behind Arel and Kania, the scene is pure chaos. The ground looks like a battlefield where Hope went to die. Kania stares at the guards getting wiped out, but Arel tells her to focus and hold on to him tighter. Right then, one of the wyverns locks onto them and starts chasing, charging up its acid breath to unleash on them. Out of nowhere, a mage steps up and saves the day, blasting the wyvern's attack away with a fireball. The group of magicians at the back jump in to cover Arel and Kania, throwing spells left and right to clear a path. But Arel knows the truth. They can't just keep running forever. This fight isn't over yet. Wyverns are tough to crack unless you've got some real magical skills. Anything below class 4 might as well just be throwing rocks at them. The magicians are giving it their all. but it's clear that they're about to hit their limit. With 2 wyverns closing in fast, our boy doesn't waste time. He converts his mana into a deadly projectile, call it a spirit bullet or Ganjidong sniper, and nails 1 wyvern right in the head. Then he takes out the other, no sweat, and lets the mages bask in the glory like they did all the work. But out of nowhere, a wyvern crashes down in front of them, cutting off their escape route. Just as things are about to get ugly, Kania calls out for her mom in a pure panic mode. Her personal guard shows up with Superman's timing, slicing the wyvern clean in half with 1 swing of her sword. The guard doesn't stick around to celebrate though. She tells our boy and his sis to make a run for it to the woods for safety. Arel feels relief and is impressed by her skills, hoping she might buy them some breathing room. But before he could even relax, he hears a strange voice in his head, almost taunting him. Arel looks around fast, trying to figure out where that creepy vibe is coming from. Then a dark-robed man steps into view, holding some weird stick and laughing. Arel's instincts scream trouble. Well, obviously, just as he tries to size the guy up, the mage skips introductions and starts summoning magic like it's about to go down. This catches our boy off guard as he expected an answer, and not for him to whip out the 9 and start blasting. The dark mage launches his attack, but Arel is quick, dodging and shielding Kania. Sadly, the guards behind them aren't so lucky. Once the magic stops, Arel looks back and sees the guards down, with smoke still rising from their lifeless bodies. The dark mage comments on how Kania dodged the attack, sounding surprised. Arel is taken aback when he realizes the mage knows her name and starts to wonder if she's been the real target all along. With a creepy laugh, the dark mage makes fun of them, saying they were just entertainment for him. He raises his staff, getting ready to cast another spell, and claims they can't escape. Our boy can sense dark energy coming from the staff. Both Kania and Arel feel uneasy. Kania looks around and notices something strange happening to the fallen bodies. One of the guards yells that they're moving, and even the wyvern is starting to twitch. Arel realizes they're up against the undead. The dark mage orders the undead to take out Kania and show the royal family the power of the dark church. But then he pauses, sensing something's wrong, though he can't tell what. Arel won't just stand there while his sister is in danger. Determined, he wonders who would dare target Kania. Using his Danjigong, he shoots at the dark mage's chest, hitting him with a wave of attacks that make the mage scream and collapse. Kania, confused, asks what happened. Arel explains that the mage probably overloaded himself with magic, causing a backlash. Even though the dark mage is down, the spell on the undead is still active. The guards urge Arel and Kania to run, promising to take care of the undead. Before they leave, Arel tells the guards he trusts them to finish the fight. As night falls, they flee into the forest and find shelter under a cliff, setting up camp. Kania is still worried, but Arel reassures her that the undead will be gone soon now that the dark mage is defeated. Arel tells Kania not to worry, saying the guards are on their way and everything will be fine. As he tries to start a fire, Kania asks how he learned to do that, since he's always busy at the castle. Arel gets a bit nervous and explains it's all about rubbing 2 flammable things together to create heat. If Kania hadn't been watching him so closely, Arel would have just used his mana to create heat and avoid the hassle of using his hands. After a bit of struggling, he finally gets the fire fired up. Kania wonders if maybe she should have skipped the training, but our boy tells her that it wasn't her fault, just an unexpected mess. She then asks if he was scared during the whole thing. Realizing he's been acting way too serious, our boy decides to be more honest. He admits they're royal representatives and have to hide their fear, even though the wyverns were pretty terrifying. Kania, seeing a softer side of him, takes his hand and thanks him for sticking with her through all the chaos. Arel, feeling quite in the moment, says that Kania was scared from the start, and it broke his heart to see the guards lose their lives for nothing. He knows the royal family is always in danger of assassination, but this is Kania's first real encounter with danger, and it's tough for her to handle. Still, he stays focused on the main goal, getting them both home safe. Out of nowhere, a wild battle breaks out above them between a wyvern and a griffin. Kania wonders why they're fighting at this hour. And Arel, noticing a nest on the cliff, figures the wyvern is after the griffin's cub. The wyvern manages to sink its teeth into the griffin's neck, sending it crashing into the rocks below. Arel and Kania run to quickly get out of the way, dodging falling rocks. Once the dust clears, they see the wyvern fly off, probably scared off by the griffin's blood on the air. But when Arel looks around, Kania is gone. He's left standing there, shocked. He spots her near the fallen griffin and warns her to be careful, but she says it's fine since the griffin is already dead. Arel knows there's no stopping Kania when she's curious. She looks at the griffin and wonders what they should do with it. Our boy, feeling kinda awkward, asks if she's planning to bury it. But Kania surprises him by saying she's worried about the griffin's baby. Arel says they can't do anything, and they would have to let nature handle it, even if it seems harsh. Kania, though, thinks Arel meant they should raise the baby together, leaving Arel even more confused and all. As Kanya spots the guards coming, one of them looks relieved to see the pair safe. When they get closer, Kanya happily greets them, excited to see them again. Kanya's guard says that no one else was hurt after the undead magic spell was broken. The guards are surprised when they see Kanya holding a griffin in her arms. Prince Arel, looking a bit nervous, says it's the perfect time to step in and stop Kanya from taking in the griffin, but Kanya's guard says it's too late for that.